All right, JP, we're back. Episode number 54.
54, yep.
Still rocking that Halloween vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Know
Tonight's
what it
guest are the new podcasters. They're friends of our friends and of us friends of a friends circle
Yep.
and our mutual power of truth seeking.
Heck yeah.
Their new podcast is called Aliens and Ascension, and they're out now. Episode 1's already out, and we have them here tonight. Welcome to the podcast of Truth or Theory, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you. I'm excited about it. So you guys dig into a whole other world that we don't really know much about. So if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience, they can get familiar with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and start.
All right.
So I call myself Avian Andy. You'll find out why I do that here in a little bit. Just give you a little bit of background. I'm from Atlanta, suburb of Atlanta at least. So I don't know if you can see, Vamonos Los Bravos tonight. Okay. I lived in Georgia my whole life. I went to UGA, got a degree in marketing there, and then I went and worked in the commercial property insurance business for about 9 years. But you know how they say people find what they love and that's what they do, and they never really work a day in their life. Well, that wasn't me. I could never really figure out exactly what it was that moved me. And I enjoyed my work. I was really good at it, but it wasn't like super fulfilling or anything. And so then my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I kind of dropped out of work and came home so I could, help around the house and stuff, and still work, but work remote and everything. And then I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember how it got into my frame, but I watched Unacknowledged. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie by Stephen Greer. It's amazing, and it like galvanized me for some reason to kind of get into the movement. And I pretty much immediately watched Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which
is that a different movie? Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Is that a movie? Third Kind?
That is separate but related. So it's based off of the Close Encounter, or CE scale, which originally started with J. Allen Hynek. You may know him from Project Blue Book. He's the guy who coined the phrase swamp gas, and it just describes the intimacy level and the type of contact with an ET. So we focus on CE5, which is defined as human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials. So we call them, they don't call us.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I watched that and it just like mesmerized me. I just identified with it wholeheartedly, and I was like, I'm going to do this tonight. And later that night, I had some kind of crazy things that happened. You'll have to listen to our podcast to get kind of the full story, but it kind of culminated with me asking whatever beings were around, like I could just feel them in my presence. I said, if this is legit, if this is all real, then make my dog bark. And my dog, who was kind of sitting northeast of me with his head down sleeping, all of a sudden, like right then, peeked his head up and barked right in my face. And I about shit my pants. It was, it was awesome at the same time, knowing that this was all real. But at the same time, I was like, oh my God, these guys are in my head. They know everything that I know. They know all my thoughts, and I'm just like, whoa, I don't know if I want other beings knowing everything I'm thinking about. Because during the night, I wasn't actually saying anything. It was all in my mind. So I knew that somehow they could hear me in my mind. But not too long after that, I started to see what I best describe as take a big, huge magnifying glass and put it in the sky. And I would look up and the sky just kind of looked like that for some reason. And it was like a perfect circle, and there were waves. It was like really wavy. I was like, what's going on? Like, I just didn't even know. Well, eventually that turned into this meditation that I do. And like my friends, I call them my friends now because I pretty much interact with them on a daily basis, they will give me environmental clues or like excess clues. Sometimes it'll take the form of animals outside, their volume increasing, or I'll have like a plane fly right over my head. Other times you'll just hear like a car rev big time in the distance. And so it's like they're trying to get me to reach these levels. And that's the best way I can describe it. As when I do my meditation, it's the best way I can describe it is I am moving my periphery. I'm trying to move my periphery into the very center of my focus. And I use I can definitely feel a muscle in my head when I do this. Okay. And basically, I mean, that's what they call the third eye. Now, again, I was brand new to all this stuff, the spiritual awakening stuff. So I'm kind of learning as I'm going and everything. So eventually what happened was, as I would go up in the levels, I would have these purple waves, all right, but they were reverse waves. So imagine like dropping something in a pond and it waving out. These would wave in. And as they waved in, what I was seeing would get clearer and clearer and clearer. And eventually what I come to realize is that I had these bird beings like all around me. And there's one that to this day is always within a couple feet of me. Like anytime I look for him, I can see him. All right. And they're like eagles, I guess would be the best way to describe him. They have something kind of on below their chin that looks like a rooster's wattle. Okay. So yeah.
Is he here right now?
Yes. He's here.
Where?
They can hear us. So they can go through walls and stuff, but kind of what I've eventually come to see is that they have some kind of device, I think, whereby they shoot this holographic beam. Imagine one of those huge spotlights you'll see at a grand opening, right? And typically it comes from a star. They'll shoot it out, and the bird being will be in like a bubble at the very end of this. And so that's like what I can see. And it's almost like the bird's kind of in there, like almost manipulating controls or something. It's really wild.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And they can make themselves as dense as they want, like, or I guess translucent. Most of the times when I see them, it's less than 50% translucent. But I still don't know how big they are, because I'm assuming with this ball, they can manipulate the size, because I've seen them as tiny as regular birds that you'll see like on a tree outside, to like wingspans of 100 feet up higher in the sky. I actually thought the very first time I saw one of them in the sky, I thought it was a spacecraft that was shaped just like a bird, because that's how big it was. So, I've come to realize now that they are trying to help me increase my vibration, okay? And I've kind of taken upon myself now to use that to try and help people understand what's happening with the world right now, and that Earth is moving from third density to fourth density, and there's an ascension process that's going on. And so that's kind of why I decided to start the Aliens and Ascension podcast. And Brian is our CE5 captain. So there's no better person to kind of be my co-host.
I've absolutely got to correct this for the record, because CE5 is a decentralized network, which means there's no leaders, there's no single point of failure. And the team that I'm a part of, every single one of those people has immense leadership capabilities. And so one of the responsibilities that I see is to help nurture as many people as I can to go out and feel confident about starting their own CE5 group, whether it's just them and a buddy or two, or 30 people. And tonight, I just got to throw this out there too, because you were saying that something about the CE5 thing is kind of not mainstream for most people. Demi Lovato and Stephen Greer got together tonight, and they did a huge meditation. It was all over Instagram and the internet.
Yeah, and that's another one of our hopes with this podcast, that we plan to interview members of our group and possibly other CE5 groups, so that people, maybe they'll hear something that resonates with them. They'll have a similar experience to someone and they'll say, okay, I'm going to jump into the CE5. I'm going to give it a chance. Because, this is a subject that for most of the past has just been full of ridicule. If you come out and say, yeah, I'm going to a field tonight to initiate contact with extraterrestrials, people think you're insane, And luckily with the CE5 movement, that stigma is kind of going away.
Now, do you remember that guy that did that interview on the news who he could summon UFOs and things like that? I forget his name.
I never heard of this.
Have you guys seen that?
I may have seen something like that.
Yeah, is that similar to what you guys do?
There's no summoning involved. There is the extension of a friendly, almost diplomatic invitation of these beings to come to our world or to join with us through consciousn's, because they say philosophically everything's connected. And, it really serves a higher purpose. And so our long-term vision is universal peace, predicated on lasting world peace. And some people get into, oh, these ET are good, these ET are bad. Well, our thinking is that if there is a point of discontention between humanity and another planetary civilization, that's going to be solved through diplomacy, not the current policy of shoot and ask questions later.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I think I kind of had the wrong idea of how this.
Well, there is a phone app actually that you can get that kind of walks you through the steps. It kind of starts off with you playing just some tones on the phone, and then you have a meditation. And kind of ultimately what you do is you visualize starting at your location. You start almost as if your body was kind of leaving the planet and eventually the solar system. You just visualize that in your head, and you go out to the galaxy, and then you come back in. So it's like you're directing the ETs into where you are on the map almost with your thoughts.
So there's no like specific hotspots for, like anywhere in the country for things like this to happen.
Well, we turned a little place down the street from this house into a hotspot.
Yeah,
it really is just something that anyone can do anywhere.
If you ever watch Star Trek, there's that thing about the non-intervention principle, and that seems to apply. At least in my experience, I've been doing this about 4 years, which isn't a whole lot of time, but the more included your location is for field work, the more likely you are to have more intense contact. So the CE5 thing is broken into levels. There's levels 1 through 4. 4 being the least intense. It's usually characterized by lights in the sky, things that kind of look like shooting stars or what we call a flash bulb or a power up. And then level 1 is contact that is within a mile of you. And after that, you're pretty much on the ship.
And one thing I do want to say as well is that it is perfectly possible to go to a CE5, like me and Brian go to a CE5 and I see something and Brian doesn't see it. And that's because I think you have to be ready to see it. And they know when you're ready. Wouldn't you say?
Well, you've got to invite them for the most part.
Yeah, like you have to believe. I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say. You have to believe before you can see.
Well, it helps. You don't have to believe. I didn't believe one way or the other when I went out there. I just recognized that, and this is very important. CE5 is a hypothesis. It's neutral. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not yes. It's not no. It's if you do this, then they will most likely show up. And it does help to have very sincere intentions and motivations. And a great anecdote to this is Richard Dolan, who a lot of people would know about. He's on the History Channel all the time. He's very well educated. And yet he went out with Dr. Stephen Greer's group. And I only know this because he talked about it in an interview. He said everyone around him was having these beautiful cosmic consciousness contact experiences. He didn't see anything. Well, why is that? If you watch his show, he's always talking about the possibility of ET invading Earth. And that's not what they're about. They're literally like cosmic hippies is how I describe them.
And I believe that they've been here long before we ever were. So there's no invading. We're the invaders, if anything.
Yeah, and we're the ones that have been openly hostile to them as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you hear about crashes and of UFOs, and at least before all this happened to me, I always thought that was so odd. I was like, if ET craft can travel light years, you know, through space and time and be that advanced, it's going to show up on Earth and just like crash, have like a mechanical issue and crash. Well, it's actually what happened is we have been shooting them out of the air.
See, and I think that I think, you know, if you were in the military and you've seen an object that you've never seen before, you're probably thinking it's another country attacking or something, you know, and I hope that they can understand that probably don't.
They do. Because if they didn't understand that, then they would have wiped us out a long time ago.
What you just said about them crashing from being shot out of the air, I've never once thought about that. That's really interesting.
I hadn't either.
Crashing into our planet, they're getting taken down. That's nuts.
Have you guys ever heard of PLFs, programmed life forms?
No.
It's a bit like Terminator, but imagine it if you think of the stereotypical little gray or tall gray. Now imagine if you could create one of those that was semi-conscious, but not conscious like you and I are with a soul. And maybe it lived for 2 years and then it perished, right? So what if you use those to actually purposely crash land a UFO on Earth so that you could give us certain technology?
So it's like an imposter in a way.
Yeah, and that's what I wonder about Roswell, if they weren't actually gifting us technology for some reason.
That's interesting.
Right. It's like you flip the emergency beacon, you know, I need help, and then when they come down, you're like, gotcha. And then you get the technology. Right. I didn't think about
it's
that
only the wrong people discovered the crash, and now we have all these, you know, the USAPs as they're called and unacknowledged. You guys really need to watch Unacknowledged if you haven't seen it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I have seen a couple.
Right?
Seen a couple.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, or not YouTube, Hulu, correct? Hulu or Netflix?
Oh, it's on Netflix right now. I know for sure.
Yeah.
And Prime Video as well, too.
Yeah, I think I have seen a couple of those.
I'll check it out. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you guys' opinions on the Men in Black Society or agency, or if that's a real thing and all that good stuff? Because I've always been fascinated by that. I don't know anything about it. You think
Sure, I'll take it.
Bad?
Think they're real?
Me personally, I will call anybody who might work for a USAP or a Black Op, Men in Black. That's about as far as I take it. You know, I'm not a person who really gets into all the UFO lore because it's so full of junk ideas. It doesn't even seem worth my time to try and parse through what's real, what's not real. But I've had experiences with people that I would definitely call Men in Black. Were they wearing suits? No. Did I see them half the time? No. Did they make themselves known to me? Absolutely.
There's actually a great little story you can hear on our first episode about one of Brian's encounters with Men in Black or an agent, whatever you call it. But, you know, the thing is, there's so much disinformation out there that it really is hard to wade through all and say what's real and what's not real. And that's what the powers that be, that's why they do it. That's why they pump out a lot of this disinformation, so that you just don't know what's real and what's not. But one interesting thing, and I believe it was Dr. Greer who was talking about this, but he says that there are Men in Black who astrally project, and they kind of stay outside. They're like the security for Area 51. So if you're trying to astrally project within Area 51 or remote view in there, then I guess they like stop you or something, or they, you know, they say, you need to get out of here right now. It's just really strange to think about, but
wait.
awesome.
No, did you say you can remote view through them?
Anyone can remote view, actually. And that's another thing too that is just really blown my mind, that we all have the same powers that Buddha had, that, you know, any of the enlightened ones have. They all exist within us. So anyone can learn how to remote view, to astrally project, to use your third eye. It's just that knowledge has been kind of lost to us over the years. And there are kind of some reasons for that you can argue.
I can't get into this at length, but the way I understand it is science and spirituality used to be intertwined. And then sometime around whenever Voltaire was alive, I think there was a separation. And so now everything's kind of cyclical in life, right? So now we're sort of moving back to that.
Right. Yeah. The ancients, they all knew this. And that's why a lot of the stuff, we don't understand how they did it, but it definitely has a logical, rational explanation when you think in terms of you can actually create things with your mind. It's real.
I see when two people have any kind of bond, whether it's by blood or by love or friendship, then the effect of your like telepathy is stronger. So this is one thing that the group I'm part of does, and we call it the color game. It'd be like, JP, you picked a color, you didn't tell E what it is, and then you meditated on it, and one broadcasted, the other received. And you'll see the color.
And we have people in our group that like spot on. Also, we don't just color to other things.
Blast it out here.
An event that you've gone through, and we've had people call me.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Hold on for a second. Your audio kind of went out for a minute. Can you slide your microphone away from your computer just a little bit? Bring it, I guess, closer to you guys and further away from the computer.
Yeah, I think it might be catching feedback between your speaker and your microphone. Try that. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
There we go.
Got you back. All right, cool.
We're brand new at this, so I appreciate you guys cutting us a little slack.
No, it's perfectly understandable. We were in the same boat.
Yeah, we're all in it together, man. Everybody listening understands that y'all are starting out too, and y'all already have a nice jump on what we did when we first started. So
yeah, you guys are obviously
bright future.
Yeah, knowledgeable of what you're talking about. We just rely on our guests a lot.
Oh yeah.
Where do you guys think podcasting is at in terms of the lifeline of podcasting? Like, is it still in the innovation phase, or is it towards the end of its lifespan?
No, I think we're pretty close to dead center, because there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of them, and people are catching on to them, and I've noticed lately there's a lot of shows mixing with others, kind of like we're doing now. There's like a lot of cross. Before it was just, this is my show and this is what I talk about, and people tune into that. Now it's, a lot of cross-platform podcasts and things, which, I mean, it's nice. It really is nice, because you can catch 2 of your favorite shows in one,
Yeah, it's definitely growing, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a new mainstream, well, it already is a new mainstream form of entertainment and education. Because TV, like cable TV, is dated now. Nobody has it anymore. It's all streaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This will be
the new normal. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be hosting a podcast about aliens and ascension and spirituality and consciousness, I would have laughed in your face.
Dude, I have met some people who have had some far out experiences through CE5, and you with the birds is like number 1 on the weird level.
Yeah, I think you guys are gonna have a lot of interesting guests too, I'm looking forward to that as a listener. What does the Ascension part of your title mean to you guys? And I know the definition of it, but what does that mean for your guys' channel and brand?
So, excuse me, like I said before, the Earth is transitioning from 3rd density to 4th density. The reason we know this is actually there have been channeled works going back actually to the late 70s. The book, The Law of One, and I've read some other channeled books where they just kind of give you the structure of existence almost. And you would think that existence and the universe would be as simple as possible, like path of least resistance. But when you find out what it actually is, it's complicated and contrived. And there are basically these densities, which you can almost look at as years of school, like first grade, 1st density, 2nd density, and your soul actually splits itself and experiences each of these densities, and you have to learn all the lessons of each density before you can get to the next. Okay. Well, third density, our density is, it's changing, at least on the earth. We're moving to fourth density, and fourth density is the density of love. And it's actually why you're seeing so much negativity and cities burning to the ground, because it's actually all the negativity of duality, all the negativity is bubbling to the surface because it has to be thrown out before we can ascend. So basically, ascension means just moving from one density to the next. Okay. But fourth density is where you can get like superpowers and stuff, you know? And it's not like linear either. Like third density kind of blends into fourth and then into fifth and everything. So it's not like a, you know, stairway where it's one or the other.
Right.
So you have a lot of people who are fourth density who now on Earth, excuse me, living in third density. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that superpower thing.
We're gonna come back to that subject in a little bit. We got a surprise guest for you guys as well. So,
All right.
hold on to your butts.
Oh, wow.
Take a picture of you. So we just had our disappearing patient party, which you were at, CE5 guy.
Yeah.
Now you're here.
Are we totally interrupting in a bad way?
No,
think
it's perfect.
It's like WWE. I love it. You just heard Monica's music came on. She comes down the entrance and interrupted.
John Cena.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't know.
Oh, I love it. We're
So
all
are we
Monica
waiting
fans.
for Binkley? Because I have big news that my whole pass is expiring. Willie knows all about my whole pass. So can you tell me what you guys are talking about? Give me a 15-second update.
We were just talking about what Ascension means to these fellas.
Oh, and I wanted to clarify. So he's the Ascension guy. I don't have any beliefs or anything about that, but it does provide a good framework to operate under sometimes. As far as like the negativity bubbling up to the surface, I do have an alternate theory, because there's this whole idea that we're in the middle of the fourth turning. And so every 80 or so years, societies go through this cycle. And so it's always really tense around this time.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
yeah, it's like a pendulum that society swings back and forth.
I don't think we're ever swinging back. Okay, but I want to tell CE5 guy why I'm here.
Why are you here?
Hi, Binkley.
What is your purpose?
Hi, Binkley.
What's your purpose? What's up?
So
Yeah, dude, they're up 2-0.
I was just about to tell CE5 guy, and then I'm going to drop off because we definitely are interrupting their conversation. So we were so excited that you were doing a podcast. Binkley and I were super excited, and I found out that Willie and JP were having you on, and we decided to surprise you with a basically podcast starter stuff. But it took so damn long for this all to happen that you actually did everything that we had set up for you. But we're going to give it to you anyway, because we want you to know that we love you.
Aw,
Thank
we
you.
love you too.
So
Thank you.
Willie made you a super, super, super awesome logo. It's definitely does not have the gravitas and that your logo does. We don't expect you to use it. You can make a t-shirt out of it or whatever, but I just thought it was fun. And
I love that. The eyeball.
Isn't
the
that
dude
great?
in the
It's very
eyeball.
artistic and beautiful. I would say it's a smidgen more whimsical than, maybe your actual vibe is. But I
Monica was
really
super
nice.
enthusiastic and excited about getting this for you guys. Like, she really was.
Not because I
love
just
it.
wanted to give you a present, but also what we did was had JJ Boogie, who's a big friend of the show, as you know, make some. I told him I like the X-Files vibe. that might also be too a little whimsical, but he made you some awesome music. But I heard that you have awesome music, so you might not want it either. But anyway, Willie, do you have that music handy? Can you play it for us?
I don't know if I can do audio on here.
Dang, it's really good.
Yeah, you want to get what kind of computer? Actually, get audio loop back if you want to like loop stuff in. I think it's like maybe.
I can just. It'll work if I just play it. If everybody mutes and just lets me
we'll do
play it, then that will work. Although I do believe I erased it. That's okay. Just give me a little patience. Why don't you guys try?
I have it on my phone if you want me to do it, Monica.
Like
do you have it? Yeah, let's everybody mute except for Willie. Go.
And guys, like she said, this was just gifts. If you guys want to stick with what you have, no hard feelings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Use this for
I
whatever
expect
you
them
want.
to, but I just wanted them to know that they're loved in a quality way.
Yeah, this was all from Monica's mind. So this is the final version of the theme, I believe. It's the intro, which you could probably use as an intro and outro. So here it is. Let's see. Hold it close. Damn.
It's the ending I like the best, or I would have let them stop before.
I love that song. It's awesome.
That was really cool. Yeah, I think we'll definitely use that for our outro.
Yeah, because
I think it's
the
cool,
end
man.
is so cool because it has the thing. So anyway, whatever. We just thought it would be nice.
I mean, it makes me feel like it's like the lights are dark and like yeah, it's cool.
And I know
who made that again?
That's JJ Boogie. He's the guitarist for Arrested Development, which is an old hip hop band that it was the last live show I saw before the Corona times. I actually went to Vegas to see him. He's a friend of the show. He does our music. He does a lot of, they just asked him to do the music for Ron Paul's Liberty Report.
He's awesome. I
have to say, I feel like
he's a great musician.
You know, that people have heard the music that we turned him on to Monopoly on Violence, and he did the music for that. It's been a very mutually satisfying thing that we know each other and people know whatever. So anyway, I'm hoping that you like all that. I will pop out, but I just was high hopes for a great podcast, and I would love to do a swap cast soon with everybody, but
this guy, I want you two to grill each other on the Trump stuff.
why? Does he think Trump is Batman?
He thinks Trump is Batman.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you can hang on for maybe just a minute, I will tell you.
Oh yeah, I just don't
what
want
I think that Trump actually is a trigger or a mirror. All right, he is forcing everyone to bring out their true selves, okay? Because as we shift from third density to fourth density, only people who are guided and full of love are going to ascend, and those who are guided by anger and hatred are going to stay in third density. And so Trump is there to kind of make you announce, hey, I'm on this side or I'm on this side, because
I could buy that.
Yeah, because like people who hate him, but you can dislike him. There are people that are just so full of hatred, and I can't even go on Twitter. Really, it's just so crazy.
Tough, yeah.
But the thing is too is that there are some Trump supporters that could do the same thing. So it's not a statement like that isn't necessarily a pro saying good or bad for Trump. I just believe that he is an amplifier.
That's a
love
great
it.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the funny thing is, when I see Trump signs in my neighborhood, there are a couple of Trump signs in my neighborhood. And if you understood how insane that is, it's pretty shocking.
Crosshairs.
And
huh? They're putting crosshairs on their property, huh?
Oh yeah, no, I mean I do expect them to burn those houses down on Tuesday.
Wow,
they
they
have the
would do that.
freaking Trump thing in their grass, and
Somebody put a sign that's like the size of their entire house. They hung it like a big drop down banner for Trump down the street. It's the biggest Trump sign I've ever seen.
Snellville is a little safer
Well,
than LA to do that.
Yeah.
But
well, some guy did actually booby trap a Trump sign. And I don't know if you guys heard about that.
No, that's not really, you're really not allowed
no,
to do
it's not cool at all.
It's not an okay thing to do. But I just say that when my family and I drive by that guy's house, we love it. We're like, right on. I love that guy. But I don't even think Trump is Trump to me is a deep state actor, just like everybody else. And his background, I think, supports that. So the people who follow him because they believe in Q, or they follow him because he's mean to Democrats, which is mostly what I get. Like, oh, he just makes Maxine Waters cry, and I hate Maxine Waters, and I hate Nancy Pelosi, and that's what's
same
going on
reason
here.
a lot of people like AOC.
Yeah, they like the hostility, which I don't like that either. But just to be a Trump supporter, to me, it means that you are just do not like the bullshit framework that we're forced to pretend is normal and natural. And so I like it. And I feel like I have hope for those people, even though I think that they're being deluded about what is really going on. I feel like those are the people who still have kind of good hearts and stuff.
Do you think he's going to win?
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
I do.
If it's legit.
If there's a winner,
I don't know how you say that, right? I mean, do I think if we have a president for the next 4 years, it's going to be him, not Biden?
Yeah. I don't know if there will be a clear-cut winner.
Have you guys seen House of Cards?
Yeah.
Yes, I saw the original British one with Francis Urquhart.
That's what I think might happen, and I think that's why what would happen, where basically they manufactured a terrorist threat and they had to close all the polling places, and eventually it went to the House. But I think that's why
I think it's going to go to the House. Yeah.
The media right now is just all over this white supremacist stuff.
Well, they're going to say it's QAnon. They're going to say QAnon.
Right. Yeah. They're going to blame it on the right, but the point is what they're going to do. I think they're going to somehow get the polling stations in the most important areas closed, and then that means only the mail-in ballots.
I'll tell you this. Every single time they've gotten me ginned up for major shock and awe, it hasn't been that.
That's true. 2020 has been a year of shock and awe, though. So are they going to end it with a fizzle, or are they going to end it with something bigger? I
think he's just going to win.
That might be what happens. You could be right.
I mean, they might burn the house down, but I think he's just going to win.
But then the big blow up would be after he wins, though, when people take to the streets.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna happen.
I know. Yeah, no, I gotcha. I feel like while they're doing that, we're gonna start World War III with Russia. Like that's what I think. Like the shock and awe isn't gonna be that.
China.
Yeah, it's the left is like all about China, and the right's about go to war with China, and the left is about go to war with Russia, and they're somehow going to come together, and might end up in war with both of them, attack on Iran, and then we have
Red Dragon.
the axis of evil.
Well,
I
that's
totally
what
do not want to prolong and derail this conversation. I do want to have these guys on. I want to pick their brains to the extent that that's an okay thing to do on this subject.
Not literally, just conversation.
Right.
Yes, not like a crow.
Not Hannibal Lecter.
No, but I want you guys to carry on, and I would love to have this exact crowd as a swap cast, but I don't want to step on what's going on here. I did just want to parachute in and say we're so happy. We've gotten many people asked us when you guys were going to start.
There have been a lot of people asking.
Yeah, people are asking us. They want it. So we hope that yours is the one
Wow.
they get, and that you bring it, and we can put it up there. So I'm happy to, we should just do a swap cast and get that out to the people who listen to our show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate everything both you and JP and Willie have done for us. It's really
It's
been
just-
amazing.
It's fun. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks for popping
Thanks
in.
for coming on and doing that. Appreciate it.
That's right.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
listen to that on just audio, and they're like, "What the hell is he doing that for?"
Yeah, that's the tomahawk chop. If you're not familiar.
Don't explain it. It makes it weirder.
Well, you can just edit that out.
Yeah, so guys, like she said and I said too, that no pressure with that stuff. Y'all use it if you want it. I'll send it to you when we get off the podcast, and you do what you want with it. You can make merch out of it, use it as your logo, backup logo. I don't care. It's it was just gifts, so do what you will with it. We're all excited for you guys.
Put it right in the
Oh,
trash
we'll
can.
use both.
That's
We'll
all
use
I'm saying.
both of them.
Delete.
I'm totally gonna find a way to put that on the website. I love that. In fact, I think I've actually made friends with an ET this year, which, you know, it's like you're having these encounters with a being and they're flashing at you, they're doing a little telepathy, but then somewhere along the line something changes, and now at least one of these beings is more like Andy is to me. You know, it's more personal, and he looks like, at least from what I've seen in my head, if it's not my imagination, he looks a lot like the guy in that picture. The big head, skinny neck, big eyeballs.
The way it was supposed to look too is that it's got the eye of the alien has a little bit of a curvature to it, so the guy and the being, if you will, is kind of like bending a little bit, like a fisheye lens. That was the look we were going for, so hopefully it has that effect.
I love it.
Right. It is.
I'm glad you guys like it. Makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome.
How
I
long
have
did
a
that take
question
to make?
pertaining- Huh?
2 days, I think. Monica and I talked about it, and then my wife and I jumped on it. So yeah, anybody listening, if y'all are interested in logos or any kind of fan art or anything like that, my wife and I do logos on the side and all that kind of good stuff. We've done it for a few other podcasts. I've designed a few tattoos for people. Whatever y'all want, let me know.
Was that made with Photoshop?
I drew it up, and then my wife and I put it in Photoshop and manipulate a lot of stuff with it. So it's like a hybrid,
Cool.
hybrid theory.
Hybrid, yeah. We know a few of those.
What were you gonna say, JP? You had a question for him?
Oh yeah, I was kind of curious. After seeing that picture of the alien, which is considered a gray, I guess, and the beings that you see are similar to birds. And what kind of being would you say they kind of pertain to? Because I know there's like Anunnaki, there's grays, there's Dracos, I think they call them, which is like a dragon type being, or there's a lot of different beings out there. Is what I'm trying to say. What the ones you see, what do they kind of pertain to? Are they?
Well, we have one of the members of our group is clairvoyant, and she has actually kind of been a mediator between me and them, and she's got the impression that they are actually sixth density beings. You know, so we talk about extraterrestrials, ETs, aliens, and most of the time when people are talking about that, they're talking in terms of a third density, physical being. But you have to remember that there are also fifth density, sixth density, higher density beings that come into play too, as well. So technically they are extraterrestrial by the definition, but they're just a little bit different than what you would think.
It's more like dimension, like it's
Right.
a different dimension. See, because I always think of it like there was that one tribe who worshipped the beings from Sirius B, I think it was, or something like that. This star, the Honobo tribe, or something like that.
The Dogon tribe, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they say the Anunnaki came down to the pyramids and made the pyramids and the mines and things like that. So that's what I was kind of thinking about when you said these beings. What planet are they from, or what star, things like that is. But a different dimension kind of makes more sense.
So, we touched upon a really important subject right here, and what the leading scientists from the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation, the Foundation for Research into Extraordinary and Extraterrestrial Experiences, they've done an extensive research study on this. And, CE5 is only one of, I want to say, 6 or more contact modalities. So first of all, you've got your interdimensional beings, which are not extraterrestrial. And then you've got extraterrestrial, which are also interdimensional, because how else are you getting, from one galaxy to the other? You got to bypass the speed of light somehow. So that's where interdimensional comes in. And there's near-death experiences. People have contact that way. There's the shamanistic, hallucinogen way. There's out-of-body experiences. There's
astral project. Yeah, out-of-body is also known as astral projecting.
One of our team members, literally, when the guy smiles, he looks like a dog. You know how dogs, when they smile, they look like they're smiling. And his words, not mine. Okay, his wife is from another planet, and he's never met her physically. They meet in the astral, and he's got these dog beings that follow him everywhere. And we've had remote viewers. Dolly, remember Dolly Saffron, who's a prime, and she remote viewed one of these dog beings. She had never met the guy, never heard of the guy. But so check this out. From that free study, out of like 4,000 people, they asked them what kind of contact with these non-human intelligences did you have? And people, 800 had contact with energy beings. 760 said they were human looking. They had short grays. They had spirit, ghost form, tall grays, hybrids, reptilians, insectoids, small animals, big animals. And as far as the Dracos go, Dracos get a bad rap. Mantis beings get a bad rap.
Are the Dracos the lizard? They're the
presumably
reptilian.
Presumably. Look, if this is, I abhor dogma, okay? I fear ideology. This is the one thing that I truly believe is universally, if you look at people who are successful at contact, they adhere to what's called the assumption of non-hostility, which means that you assume whoever you're contacting is peaceful until proven otherwise. Mm-hmm. And to date, nobody has ever been harassed or hurt by ET. Now, there's humans who pretended to be ET that scared the crap out of people, but not actual ET. And that includes reptilians.
Yeah, actually, one of the things they talked about and unacknowledged, and I think CE5 too, which I had never heard of, is that alien abductions, some of them, I don't know, not necessarily all of them, but some of them are actually us, these deep state programs that they had the technology, so they created, the spacecraft, and they have animatronics and everything that basically to scare the public.
That's the old school. The technology nowadays will interface with your consciousness, and I mean they can make you think you're having a face-to-face with your creator. It's so intense. We've got a guy on the team. We're going to interview him tomorrow. I don't know when we'll get it published, but I believe we're going to get him to open up about having voice-to-skull technology used on him. Some other interesting things. This guy's had an interesting life, but he actually believes he's got memories of his life before Earth, somewhere in Arcturus, where he was trained for this mission here on Earth. And that's what people mean when they say, I'm a starseed. They're not really human. They're just here helping with the current cause. And maybe that's where Ascension comes into play.
That's really interesting. Yeah, you guys definitely have a different take on all the stuff that's going on. I have a different take. I like the ancient history and Anunnaki, things like that, and we're created in their, version, and that's what I
love that,
like
all that ancient
side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should read The Law of One, because they actually do talk about the Anunnaki and how we were imbibed with consciousness, self-aware consciousness. They actually talk about beings from Mars and Venus, and they have a galactic confederation on one of the rings of Saturn and everything. So it's pretty wild, and it's kind of hard to understand because it's actually verbatim channeled information from. So you had a lady who was just sitting as still as she could be, channeling higher density beings, raw. Ra. But the thing is Ra, it's a collective consciousness too. So
he doesn't have an ego or individuality like you and I have.
Evidently, he does still have a little bit of individuality, but he's part of the collective consciousness. So, and I also believe that Earth has its own collective consciousness, and I actually believe I've seen it before. One night, I was doing my thing, and all of a sudden, the lights in so straight ahead, there's a house, and there are these orange lights kind of going around the yard, and all of a sudden those started to turn into like outlines of people, and what I saw was men, women, and children all holding hands, okay, and there was this one lady who was like dressed in African garb, or like the hat and the whatever they wear, and she was going like this. She was actually holding flowers for me, but it was the flowers that were in my neighbor's yard, right? And the really funny part actually was when I kind of veered back and I saw this way, and I looked, and there was a kid, and there was like confetti, and the kid had balloons, and I actually kind of laughed to myself, because I was like, this is so cliche. But like they're saying, hello, we're the collective consciousness with confetti and balloons and everything, And then another weird thing too that happened is my mailbox. We have the mailbox, and then there's a little sign next to the mailbox. Well, all of a sudden, those turned into a man walking his dog too. So one of the things that these guys do is they'll use things in the environment, like trees. They've actually, one time, it was raining. We went out into my yard, and they had somehow created in the pattern of the grass a picture of themselves, And it's funny because I actually ran and grabbed my mom and said, you got to see this. And I had been telling her a little bit about my experiences and everything, and I'm not sure really how much she like believed and everything. But when she came outside and I pointed out to her, and she saw it. And I just saw this like moment, and I could like see it going through her eyes, like, oh my gosh, having that feeling of knowing. That's a feeling that I still get actually sometimes when we do CE5s. It's just this profound feeling where just for a second you feel connected with everything, and typically it'll be associated with a flyby where it'll look like a shooting star, but it'll just be a light will kind of appear and then go across the sky really fast and then just disappear.
There's that sense of knowing, and then there's another very similar one, almost identical, that people call presence of consciousness, which is when someone is nearby. You may not be able to see them, but you can just sense them. It's the same way that it works when you stare at the back of somebody's head and then they turn around and look at you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking about that same vibe the other day. How weird that is when you can sense when people are looking at you. There's something with that energy that's such a strange thing.
Consciousness.
Yeah, it's ESP. We all have it.
That's
you know it. Yeah, another thing too that's just really kind of proved or shown all this to me is all the synchronicities that I've seen over and over and over. And basically, you want to talk about synchronicities?
Well, just going back to what I was trying to say last night before we got interrupted, is that there's a common theme with a lot of people, including myself, where one day we noticed that the universe is responding to our internal thoughts and dialogue. And so it's like some people say, speak it into existence, or even what we think sometimes will align in this perfect manner, perfect timing, perfect situation. And so that's synchronistic. And when it happens so many times, then they say, at least in intelligence communities, they'll say it's outside standard deviation. Therefore, it must be deliberate, right?
Yeah. For example, I've had a couple instances where I've been reading a book, like a channeled book or anything. I've just dove into all this stuff because once you get once you have a spiritual awakening, it just like completely changes your entire worldview, kind of. So I'll be reading this and I'll think to myself, I wonder, is that true? And right then, all of a sudden, I'll hear someone, coming down the stairs, and it'll be this huge banging. Or actually, I've had a situation where my dog, again, was asleep. I say, I wonder, is that true? And he'll just kind of turn, kind of put his head up, turn around, and look at me right in the face for like 3 seconds. And I'm just like, okay, that's a symbol. I know, I get it. Right? And once you start to see those, you'll start seeing them more and more often. What I believe is that synchronicity is you create your own reality, okay? And once you have your spiritual awakening and you're doing your work, you're becoming more in tune with the universe, your external environment starts to align with your internal reality. And that's what the synchronicity really is, I'm saying.
Can I share an example of one that happened to me?
Absolutely.
That it touches on, you mentioned in your first email, like interdimensional vampires or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a synchronicity, just that you would even bring that up, because I never get to tell the story. And I had always wanted to try DMT. They say it's pumping through the brain when you have dreams. It's embedded in the melatonin molecule. And so I'm doing this research on it. Come to find out that there were government studies on it, and decades apart. And so these subjects were coming back who didn't know each other. They lived in different time periods. And they're saying that we encountered these beings that said, hey, man, we're so glad you discovered this technology, because now you can communicate with us more. And I'm driving Uber at the time in Atlanta. I dropped this guy off. He's a cool cat. He says, hang on a sec, bro. And he goes in his house. He comes back. The dude tips me in DMT. This little waxy thing. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, this is my moment. How perfect is it that I was just researching this? I think the universe thinks I'm ready. And so I do it in the most scientifically controlled manner, just a little bit at a time. I mean, it's not a recreational thing for me, okay? It's very spiritual and scientific. And
I don't think it's recreational for anybody. So. That's
it's not once you blast off.
Stuff.
So I have this, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a Godhead experience. Vishnu, the blue guy, was there. He sticks his finger in my brain and he's like giving me this message. And I'm just experiencing the total euphoric love of God, like beyond a mother's love. It's so powerful. Then everything goes dark, black and red. And this guy with a cloak and hood just floats up to me. And as he gets face to face, and then I can see his face and I recognize him. It's David Rockefeller. And you can tell he's come to just suck out the energy from me. And so what I did was, instead of reacting, I just projected that love of God onto him. And he had this look of fear and terror on his face, and then he just evaporated. Come to find out, David Rockefeller died the day before that.
Dude.
Ooh. Right. That's like
Vampire.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to be open to it, and you have to see it for what it is when it happens. It's not just coincidence, So
That's wicked. That's really wicked. Yeah, this is wild. So kind of back on the synchronicity. That is so that's basically a sign of the universe showing you confirmation, correct?
yes, I could say in a sense, basically, it's saying you're on the right path.
So like say for instance, like I was talking about like today, like I seen a hot air balloon and I said I need some kind of confirmation, and then here you are, you're talking about confetti and balloons. There's my confirmation.
Yes, that is definitely a synchronicity for sure. I'll tell you one just because this was really funny. I watched the documentary about the guy in Colorado who jerry-rigged this bulldozer, okay, and he went through the entire town and just basically took down all the walls of the town because the townspeople had wronged him. Have you guys seen this?
No.
Heard about this? No. Oh, you got to watch it.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix, and eventually the guy committed suicide in the thing. But so he's got this bulldozer, and he's going through and taking out the walls, and the buildings are collapsing. And he probably does this to a dozen buildings in the city. So the very next day, I was with my niece. We were watching Scooby-Doo, and the episode was about these genetically altered cows that had like bees and some other animal. And what they were doing is they were going through the town, and they were chewing on the walls of buildings, and basically having buildings collapse in each other. It was like the exact same thing that I was doing, just with these, genetically engineered, like a Scooby-Doo, like fictional thing. But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that's that's kind of strange, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's, a lot of times the synchronicities, it's little stuff. Sometimes it's big stuff. It's usually subjective, not always, but it does always suggest that there's a conscious quantum holographic universe out there listening. And that's one of the things that makes me wonder, that and telepathy and the ideas of certain classified technologies that interface with consciousness is, if our thoughts aren't private now, is privacy real, or is it a man-made construct?
That's an interesting thought. That is an interesting thought. What do you guys think about manifesting your own reality?
So I think that and I don't believe this, but I think it's worth experimenting with, is if we could get like maybe everybody in the whole world, or at least 1,000, a million people, to try and meditate on moving a mountain an inch. I think that maybe it could happen.
Yep. San Francisco just had a 10 magnitude earthquake because everybody moved a mountain.
Okay, well maybe it's a bad idea.
Yeah, but they have done studies actually where they had 1,000 people go to a small town, or I'm not sure where it was. Anyways, they had 1,000 people, or 2,000. I'm terrible at telling stories, clearly, but they all got down and meditated, and they went through all the statistics, and like terrorism went down like 75%. You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard about that one.
So basically, there's like this 1% theory where if you get 1% of the population of the world like meditating, or like becoming spiritual, having some kind of awakening, then that will create the change of the world that we need, where we all live in peace and harmony, and blah 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 blah. But
you'll never believe who else talks about that. It has nothing to do with ET or Ascension.
Who's that?
Saul Alinsky in Rules for Radicals. He talks about that, what they call it the Maharishi effect. It really comes from quantum mechanics, but he says it applies to mass society as well. It's really interesting. Have you guys ever seen the Dr. Emoto water experiments?
I haven't.
Well, this got a bad rap from Joe Rogan. He crapped on it, but he never explained why. So, sometimes I wonder about him. But I didn't go to school for experimental design. But what Emoto did was he had these people do different things to water. They would bless it, they would curse it, they would meditate on it.
I've seen this. I have seen this.
And yes, and so what happened to the water after they froze it?
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. I was thinking of a guy who talked to, he's like, I thank you for being you, or something like that. Then the next one he goes, he's like, you're a piece of crap. Then he goes to the next one and just says nothing. And it had a different result for all three. Similar, I think.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. Right. I'm thinking of something else, but I think we're along the same lines.
Yes.
Well, they turned into like perfect, almost like snowflake crystals. They had like the water had a definite form and shape that you could see. And then when they had all the negative emotions, it was just all blah or whatever, it didn't make any sense and everything. And another study they've done is with the random number detector, where if you put your intention on 0 or 1 or the other, then eventually, if you're in a room with a random number detector, you think of 1, then ones will come up and like a statistically significant number, because everything is conscious, pretty much, So and again, it goes into the whole, you create your reality.
Right.
So another little tidbit, just it popped into my mind, so I figured I would talk about it. I forget who it was, but this guy hooked up a plant to a lie detector, an EKG. All right, and he was like doing some tests, and then he said, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go get another plant and burn one of the leaves. And when he had that thought, not when he did it, when that thought went through his mind, the plant hooked up to the EKG went crazy.
So did say it out loud?
I've heard of that one. That is nuts, man.
Right, yeah. He didn't say it, no.
Just slap the vegans, man. Everything's alive. Your plants are alive, damn it.
Yeah.
We'll have to eat the babies.
No offense to all the vegan listeners.
I love sprouts.
Yeah, that's some seriously wild stuff, mind bending.
That what you just talked about with the plants, that is a really good thing for people who are interested in the subject of consciousness, but they're very new to it to get into. I think that was Rupert Sheldrake, and he came up with the causative formation or something like that. But yeah, Rupert Sheldrake, he's got the banned TED Talk for this experiment.
This stuff is super interesting, especially if you're not like, I don't know, if you're
that's the thing,
that kind of thing, it might finally click with you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that nobody's, so many people are unaware of this, but it's been around for years and years and years. And it really just goes to show you how well they keep the information suppressed from the public. Because if the public at large knew everything like that they know and understood the true nature of consciousness, then they would lose all their power like immediately, So it really is kind of sad in a sense when you think of that. And I guess that's kind of part of our mission. One of the things we want to do is bring this information to as many people as we can, because at least for me, I know for a fact that it's true. I have like direct visual proof that I can see, so like when you know something for sure is real, then you want to share it with everyone.
I've never seen these bird pings, although last night when we asked for a sign and we got those chirps immediately after that, for me that was a layer of validation. But I have seen you do your process and the experiences that you go through, and so I know that he's really having these experiences, and for me that's compelling that there's something going on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think if they hooked me up to an EKG, I would go crazy, because one of the things that I noticed and that I've been doing lately is I really focus all my attention on my ears, and I just listen very closely, and they will typically give me some kind of, there might be an air conditioning unit going on. They'll give me something to listen to. And as I do that, I can feel the vibration within my body increase. And I'm sitting on a plastic chair, and I put my head back on the chair, and I can literally feel my head going like back and forth. Like the first time I noticed that, it weirded me out big time. But eventually I've come to realize that when they say increase your vibration, that's exactly what they mean. You are increasing your vibration. And another thing that happens when I do my meditations is my eyes get really, really blurry. I think one of the reasons for it is that they're higher density beings, all right? And so they have to lower their vibration for us to be able to see them, because you can only see your density down, And so they're lowering their vibration. And there were some times where I would get so upset because I would, I'd go up in these levels and I'd see this, some really cool things, but I didn't get all the answers, or stuff was blurred. They were blurry, and I would get so down. But what I come to realize is it would hurt my eyes if I saw them at a vibration if I wasn't at that same vibration. And a little anecdote, there have been times where one of my contact lenses has just fallen out of my eye. It's happened probably half a dozen times, actually, when I do this. And I guess that's because my eyeball is vibrating as well. I'm not really sure.
Well, this is like a spasm going on. I have one more question for you, Avian Andy. Do you feel like you're at risk with this ability that you've tapped into, with people not wanting you to have this that's on our planet, basically?
Yes, I am. One of the very first things I did back when this all started, and when I did one of the very first CE5s I did by myself, because they were, at that time, they were mimicking stars and they were kind of moving around when I asked them to and everything. And so I did some yes or no questions with them. And, I asked them if they would protect my family, meet myself and my family. And they said yes. So I'm hoping that even if there are, nefarious people out there with nefarious intentions, that just some way or somehow, kind of like with Dr. Greer, you got to wonder, how is that guy still alive, considering everything he's done and all the information he's got out? Well, I truly believe that they, and the good they, are protecting him, and they just won't let anything bad happen to them.
Well, he did survive an attempt on his life, and then Sherry and one of their team members did not survive. He talks a little openly about executive protection, which I presume comes from the CIA in large part.
Yeah, well, I really do believe in this ascension, in this third density to fourth density, and I believe it's going to happen very soon. And so I'm really not even necessarily that worried, because I know it's all gonna work out, and it's just going to happen as it's supposed to happen. And when we get to the fourth density, the density of love, like literally negative emotions or thoughts cease to exist. There's some books that I've read where they say we're going to be like, what? We're going to look back and say, what is anger? What is hatred? Once we get to that density, it won't even be something that we can comprehend.
That's what pissed me off so much when I first made contact with ET, because I'm thinking, all right, so these beings just traveled potentially light years just to say hello to little old me when I threw the invitation out there. And meanwhile, our military, the industrial complex has been shooting these buggers out of the sky for decades, and they've turned the other cheek the whole time. I mean, that's like Jesus mode right there. Think of the example that they're setting. So do I want to be like the human leaders? Not you, even though I'm pointing this way. Or do I want to be like the cosmic leaders?
Right. Guys, I got one more kind of off the wall question, and then we kind of want to get into the 6 questions here. Unless he really has anything to add.
Yeah, I'm good. We'll jump into it when you're done.
Yeah. So what do you guys think happens when you die?
Oh, good question.
So what happens when you die is, like I said before, you have a higher self, the soul, and the soul breaks itself up into many, many, many different pieces. All right, and that's why you actually, I believe in reincarnation. You have your soul having different experiences in different densities at the same time. That's another thing that we haven't really talked about, but time is just an illusion. Everything that could ever happen, every single possibility of anything that could ever happen is happening right now, so I know that's off topic, but basically what they say when you die, what happens is you're greeted by your spirit guides, and you walk through your life and you say, did I learn the lessons I was set up to learn, because actually before you start a life, your incarnation, you basically have a plan. You have a path. You create a soul plan, almost like a contract that says, so you know what's going to, the major events that are going to happen to you in your life, and you choose those because those are the experiences that you need to experience in this incarnation, because you haven't got that experience in the other incarnation. And that's all existence is experience, like the one infinite creator experiencing itself. So when you die, you go through this, they described it as almost a panoramic view, and you see almost your entire life, everything that's ever happened to you goes forward. But they say it takes only like a couple seconds. I'm reading this book. It's funny you asked that, because I'm reading this book, Life After Life, which is one of the very first books that was ever published about near-death experiences. And so basically, you die, you have this review. If you learned your lessons, then your soul can kind of move on to, I guess, higher density. If not, then you have to repeat another incarnation on that density until you've learned everything there is to learn, at least on that density. What do you think?
It's very interesting. I've heard that from other people too. It's a lot of it is so far outside my realm of experience that I can't say one way or the other. But what is within my own personal experience is had a lot of contact with deceased people. I went down to Casadega, Florida, which is the spiritualist community, and I recommend that place to anybody. It's awesome, and you can do the ghost tour there. It's not a ghost tour. Actually, what they do is they make you watch this PowerPoint. They teach you a little bit about interacting with people who have passed on from their physical body, and then at the very end, you go one by this pond in between these two big trees. They call them the portal trees, and they say, focus your intention on inviting one person who has passed away. Well, me being a little scientifically minded at times, I'm thinking I'm going to invite two people, this relative and also Dr. Fred Bell, because if you dig through his videos on YouTube, and by the way, his daughter still runs Pyridine, such a sweetheart, awesome lady, but he was very passionate about this subject. And what he used to do is actually set up these experiments where he would vector in angels. So we talk about vectoring in ET. He would bring in angels. And this is the guy who founded Bell Labs, by the way. He was an instrumentation scientist. So he really knew what he was doing. And these angels would be able to come in the form of ectoplasm, and then he would photograph them. Wow. And so I invited Fred Bell in and my relative. And in my photo, there was two orbs. There was only supposed to be one, right? Because I was only supposed to invite one person. So that was cool. And then I've had a lot of dream contact with dead relatives. But another thing is there's a member of our team who is former NSA, and he left because it didn't jive with his principles. And he's so one of the things that we've learned from this guy is the Monroe Institute actually trains people in something called life pathing, I think is the name. And what the life pathing is you go out of body and you find these people who have been unable to cross over to the other side, and you help them cross over. But the trick is you have to come up with a construct that works for their worldview within their timeline. So the example he gave was he was a commander in like an army uniform, and he was helping these guys from the Vietnam War area cross over. And so he tells the guys, all right, we got to get to the rendezvous zone, and they get in a helicopter. And when he's telling us these stories, he keeps talking about taking these guys to Focus 27. And I'm thinking, okay, so Focus 27, this must be a therapist construct that they come up with. He says, no, it's an actual place where deceased people go. And I said, oh, well, do we build it with our thoughts over here? And he said, no, they build it over there. And that's one of the better places, okay? So the dead people sometimes go to some place called Focus 27, but then there's these other places below that. There are many heavens and many hells, is how I describe it. Again, this is one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet, okay? And he lives through this. And these many heavens, many hells are based around a person's dogma. You know, some Christians believe in heaven's a certain way, and if you don't do this or you do that, you go to hell. Well, so they might actually experience that because their beliefs in this life are so rigid. Just right.
There's a lot there. There's a lot.
That's a lot to take in.
That's a whole nother episode, I believe, in itself.
They say that whatever when you die, kind of what you immediately experience is what you expect to experience. You know, so if you believe in heaven, then when you die, it'll look just like what you believe heaven looks like. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of how I was raised to think of heaven that way. That's how I've been teaching my kids too.
I like to think that I'll incarnate here again. I mean, what I personally pray for is that God or whoever keeps sending me back to earth until we get done with the mission here and we're in a stable cosmic place of peace. Like I said earlier, universal peace predicated on lasting world peace, right?
Wow, so you want to keep coming back until you feel like that's accomplished?
I do. Yeah, I'm committed.
Man, that is
Don't
committed. You? No, I don't want to come back. If I do come back, I don't want to come back as a human. I want to come back as something different.
Hey, I know you're hiding an elongated skull under that top hat.
What are you talking about?
And that's another thing too, actually, that your soul can have experiences here as a human, but you can also have incarnations on a separate place, being an alien. So it's really what you choose. And that's kind of hard to accept that, you know, when really bad things happen in your life or bad things happen to people that you love, that you planned for that before you were alive. And it's meant to, everything that happens to you is meant to teach you a lesson. So if you look at it like that, then, you know, that's the way I'm starting to look at things. And, you know, it makes me a lot less angry and fearful and vengeful, all those negative things, because, you know, this is what I chose for my life.
And that's always empowering too. That's one of the things that really makes me passionate about CE5 is it empowers people and it creates situations where they have opportunities to empower themselves.
Right.
That's well said.
Well done, fellas. I think your podcast is going to do well, and we're excited to hear it.
Yeah.
Excited for you guys to pump out more content and get some cool guests on. But we're going to jump into the freaking 6 questions of doom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions are doom. They're good questions.
They're doom. So
you guys are listeners. So you know the 6 questions already, which is kind of, you got an upper hand on most people.
do y'all know the 6 questions?
Yes,
I know
we do.
the answers I wrote down.
That makes me feel good if y'all know these questions.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you guys do this. It's, you know, it's a little different.
That's
but,
fun.
I like it. Could we maybe steal it and maybe have in our podcast?
It's your show.
I
You do
stole
whatever you like.
I stole the idea from James Lipton. He used to host the show Inside the Actor Studio.
Yes.
Concept?
My questions are, but I always loved that he did that at the end of the episodes. He'd ask those few questions that he had, and it was the same questions every time. I always look forward to seeing what the people were going to come up with. And his last question was always, if heaven exists, what would you want God to tell you at the pearly gates? So I thought that was so exciting to hear what all these random actors and actresses and entertainers would come up with. I thought that was cool. So I was like, I really want to do that in our show.
Tell me what they told me at graduation. You barely made it, but you made it.
All right, guys. I'm going to ask CE5 guy the question first. It'll be the same question for both y'all. Then we'll move over to Avian Andy. Then you get the answer, sir. Number 1, you have the power to make one law. Which law do you create and why?
This was one of my favorite questions, and I swear I'm not pandering to Monica and Binkley, but if it weren't for them, I would never have thought of this. First, I would form a committee of the smartest people I knew, and then I would abolish all laws except private contracts. And the committee would be about how to enforce violations of private contracts. And also private militias, because I think they're important. I wouldn't want to, I want to promote those.
Well, that's like a complete system of government, though.
Well, so I'm looking for anarchy, but where private contracts have some way of being enforced. And then also you got to protect your borders, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah, that's some layers to that one. You made your own new system.
Yeah.
How would that work if one of the people of the council like was to die? Would there be people on standby to replace that person?
Oh, on the committee, no, it wouldn't be long term. It would just be like, how do we do this right before we launch the absolution of all laws?
Okay.
Anarchy, baby.
You crazy. Avian Andy, same question.
Yeah, mine's a little more practical. Basically, it's, I guess I would say a constitutional amendment banning income tax. I think that a lot of the problems that we see today are driven by the fact that progressives and the left, they realize that they can use the wealth of half of the country, give it away to the other half, and therefore basically stay in perpetual power. That's really all the income tax is, and not to mention bloated, ridiculous federal government that goes way beyond what the founding fathers could have possibly ever imagined. And so I think income tax, one of the things that I do sometimes is I think about, obviously we've strayed from where the founders, the path that they set for us. So what is the main one thing that they missed, that they got wrong? And so my answer is no income tax.
There you go.
I like that.
I've heard that one, yeah.
I like it. Number 2, CE5 guy. If you could describe yourself with 3 words, which 3 words would you choose?
I'd probably choose the words I don't know, honestly. Maybe short, fat, and ugly. But seriously, I have the hardest time when it comes to things like MySpace and Facebook with the biography. That just, it throws a screw loose in my brain, and I never know what to put there.
I don't know.
All right, we'll continue. At least for me, I would say analytical. I have like 1,000 thoughts going through my brain any second. It's kind of it's weird actually. Sometimes I'll see commercials for like a product, and immediately I'll kind of go through every possible use of that product and how it could fail, and all the different ways that it can fail. I do the same thing with movies. Sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'll be like, well, he could have said this and it would have been so much better. That my brain is just always thinking and analyzing stuff. So also empathetic. I believe I do a real good job of putting myself in other people's shoes sometimes. I think that there are a lot of people in this country that can't do that, can't imagine being someone else and having something really bad happen to them. A lot of people will just say, not my problem. And I think that anytime I hear about someone, dying or something just really bad happening to people, I immediately put myself in those shoes and just think about, God, how awful that would be. So I don't know, maybe that's because I'm just like a glass half empty kind of guy. I don't know why that is, but the last word I would say is silly. I like to act funny and silly sometimes, just to I like to get a smile or a laugh out of people. So sometimes I'll do just something really silly, like at the store, going through the line and something, or try and make them laugh. Sometimes it works, sometimes no, it goes the wrong way. But I found for most people, at least, if you're friendly and you say something and you kind of let them know that you're there, you know, and that you see them, you appreciate them, you respect them, basically, you know, just say something real quick to notice their existence, really.
He always makes me think about what a dork he must have been in high school.
I was a huge nerd. Huge. I guess nerd, that would probably be number 4.
Those are all good answers. I appreciate them. Number 3, CE5 guy. If you win Miss Georgia, what do you want to do in your town first? I'm kidding.
I was like, whoa, what?
I just feel like these are Miss America questions. Number
Because other people don't have maps.
and such as.
Iraq, such as.
Can you repeat the question? I'm a little confused.
CE5 guy. Number 3, what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh, see, that's what I thought the question was. I guess building things. I like building things, not tangible stuff, but human stuff made of humans. You know, like with our CE5 organization. What really inspires me is just seeing people go through these changes that have a positive, transformative effect on their lives.
I think he's talking about a group or like a movement.
Or like,
right?
you know, I don't go to church. I used to, but like if you were to build a church, imagine
you said
that
making
would...
things out of people, and that threw me off.
Like body
Hey,
parts?
centipede, get in here. Human centipede.
Yeah.
Can we check your guys' deep freezer, please?
It's a one-way.
So the answer for me on that one, and we've already really talked about this, is the helping Earth ascend or get to the 4th density. You know, if I can get one person to tune into their spirituality, or have one person who was on the fence about CE5 and was really scared and didn't want people to judge them and everything. They have all these excuses, really, and a lot of them are legitimate for why they're not going to take that jump. If that person listens to our podcast and that gives them the impetus to come to an event, then I think that would be a success for our show.
Sure.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
CE5 guy. Number 4. What is something you like that most people don't know about you?
Okay, I apologize for this being inappropriate. I come up with another answer, but I forgot to write it down. But honestly, Asian women. I really like Asian women, but there's none here where we live, so nobody would know that.
Where you live in, what, Georgia?
Yes. I'm from Dallas, Texas, very international place.
Yeah. What type of Asian women like? Because there's a huge variety. Is there a certain country?
I don't discriminate.
Oh, snap. You heard it here first, guys.
There you go.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
Avian
So
Andy.
it's me. I would say Disney movies. I really like watching my niece will come down and we'll watch Disney movies, and I think most people don't know that. Another thing, kind of my first thought was Premier League soccer, because there's a lot of people that hate soccer, at least in my sphere of influence, the people that I listen to and everything, they're always making fun of it. But I don't know, there's just something about the English Premier League that I just love it. Love watching it.
Yeah.
When you say Disney movies, you mean like the cartoons, the classic cartoons, the Pixar movies?
Yeah, sorry, animated or Pixar movies.
He likes all the hidden penis symbols.
That concludes the podcast, guys.
I can agree with you on the Disney movies, because I myself enjoy a Disney movie, but I don't have any kids or anything like that. So for a guy my age, watching Disney movies is off. It's strange. So I don't do it very often. But
I feel very uncomfortable with him in my home right now.
It's you never seen him.
You probably got Disney underwear on right now.
Bro, you've seen Frozen about 1,000,000 times now.
I have 2 daughters, and I've only seen the first Frozen movie halfway, and I haven't seen the second one. So take that, JP. You creep.
I actually have not seen Frozen yet, because
I didn't like the first one.
My niece has seen it so many times that every time I'm like, let's watch it, she's just like, no, I don't want to watch it. And
Yeah.
I just feel really, that's like one movie that I would just feel really weird watching by myself. Like I've watched other Disney movies by myself, but I don't know.
Moana
What do you guys
is really
think?
good. I liked Moana.
Oh yeah.
That was a really pretty.
Yeah,
stuff.
that is good.
The Toy Story movies are classic too. I love those.
Man.
Absolutely.
All right, so you answered that one. Number 5. If you could have any superpower, which superpower would you choose?
Right now,
Guy.
I have the superpower to talk to dogs so I could understand what this dog is trying to tell me. This question, though, people have been asking this question since kindergarten. And to me, it's as hard to answer as it is to figure out what to put into your bio. Just, I'll never know. It's like, how many licks does it take to get to the middle of a Tootsie Roll? Some things you'll just
Depends on your
never
size of
figure
your
out.
tongue.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, y'all went there earlier, and I took it there back. So hey, we're all equal now.
All right, we're even.
So my
Yeah, I see what you're
was telekinesis, the ability to move things with my mind. Because that also, if you can move things with your mind, that means you can also move yourself, so you can fly. So that includes flying. I don't know if that's cheating or not, but
That was my exact answer, dude. So
oh yeah, really? Okay.
we think alike.
You guys could have like a mind battle.
Yeah, we just keep throwing each other across the room without moving.
Right. Yeah.
I thought of it as like a Magneto or a Jedi type way. I just thought that would be
Exactly.
the coolest
Yeah.
power ever. You could do so much with it.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Interesting.
The self-healing is pretty cool. Like Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's a long life to live, brother. That
Yeah,
guy
you
went through the
want to
Civil
stick
War
around too long,
today.
dude. I don't want to be here that long, man. But that is a good power. I wish it'd be cool to be able to do it to other people too. Like you could do it for yourself and others. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Last question, number
Actually,
6.
it's a huge other topic, but you can heal yourself actually, and maybe on the next show we'll talk about that. But people who like the energy healers and everything, people that you hear, like without medicine and everything, that's like legit. Actually, it's kind of weird.
Well, when Denise was doing the Reiki for us at our last CE5 retreat, people, including myself, were experiencing when she would hit a certain pressure point, we would see the corresponding color of the chakra that's aligned with that part of the body.
Well, that's crazy.
So that's kind of related to the healing.
Yeah, we need to dive into that because I don't think we've ever talked about that on the podcast.
No.
We'll dive into that the next time you guys are on. Last question, number 6. CE5 guy, if you could know the absolute truth on one conspiracy theory, which would you choose and why?
Well, hate to break it to you, but I got 3 answers to make up for the 2 answers I didn't have. And
No problem.
they're autism. I want to know the real origins of the Bible and when it, how that all went down. And then I want to know about every single sanctioned and unsanctioned special access program, every single black op, because then and only then would I be remotely close to living in reality.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of mind blower, but I understand what you're saying.
And the autism, that's something that it really affects people today. And it's very traumatic. And I want to know where that stuff is coming from. And personally, I'm not going to just outright assume that none of it's intentional. In fact, I'm going to assume the worst until proven otherwise.
Yeah, that's a serious topic, man. Autism is something that's really bizarre, and it's almost like it's weaponizing certain people to think a certain way, so we can have stronger minds in certain areas. Like, because the way their brain works is so bizarre. My stepson is on a spectrum of autism, and he is an incredible reader and like just schoolwork. He just blasts through like nothing. He's 13 years old now, and he can basically, from his teachers, that he can miss a few weeks and it doesn't even faze him at all. Like he's always way ahead of the class. The kid can he's been able to outread me since he was like 4 years old.
I think one of the channel's books that I read talks about autism and gets into like the spiritual like consciousness reason for why that is. So I'll look that up for the next time.
I know Mary Rodwell gets into it too. She's the lady. She's part of the Free Foundation, and she works with children who are experiencers, and a lot of them are diagnosed as being on the spectrum, and they just have these amazing genius level experiences and
Yeah,
talents.
it's very interesting stuff.
What it is.
What about you, Avian Andy?
My first instinctual response is JFK. You know,
Me too.
Like anytime something about the JFK assassinations on TV, I just felt compelled to watch it. You know, because it was just such a huge moment, and imagining, like I said before, about with empathy, you know, putting yourself in that position back then and just trying to understand like what a big deal that was is just kind of interesting to me.
Do you think the
But
driver shot him?
I don't know, because my real answer is 9/11. And so I was one of those guys, I never believed in the false flag thing. I would actually get pretty upset, pissed off almost at the people who did, because it seemed not just so out there, but just so evil and just crazy that I just didn't even want to believe that human beings were capable of that. But there was always that, you know, little thing in the back of your mind of World Trade Center 7, that building. You know, why did that building go down? It made absolutely no sense. Why that building? Because it went down like a demolition. You know, and so that was always kind of there. And then when I watched Unacknowledged and I learned about these, you know, USAPs, special access programs, and that they have alien technology that they've had for over 50 years. You know, they could do anything.
Right.
So them creating a way for the beams to snap or melt without being noticed. That's one of the things. I watched this program on History Channel once. It was like Fact or Fiction, and it talked about the conspiracy theories. And one of the things they said is, if it was a controlled detonation for the World Trade Centers, then you would have seen like evidence of that all over the place. You know, like the cords or just other things that would have been a telltale sign. And so that always that was my reason why I never really believed it. But then when I understood these guys have stuff that's, you know, who knows how advanced it could be, the technology that they're using, they could do it. It would be so easy for them to do something like that. And so that's when it triggered in my mind that, yeah, wow, that really could be a false flag.
Last year, on the anniversary of 9/11, there is a guy who is a former JPL worker. He's an astrophysicist, and he briefly uploaded a video. He said, never before seen footage of 9/11. And sure enough, by the way, I screen recorded this before he took it down.
Smart.
Yeah, the audio sucks, but I've got it. If there's anything that makes me fear for my life, it's the fact that I'm willing to share this video with anybody who'd like to see it. And it's I think it's a Canadian film crew, and they're so close to the building. They're on looks like they're on the roof of the building next to it. And they filmed the impact, and just mere seconds before the impact, a laser hits right where it's 1 or 2 tower that is hit. I mean, what I'm suggesting is laser guided missile here, and maybe it's a deep fake, but it looks real, man. It looks real to me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very, because there was a Canadian, I believe it was a Canadian film crew that they were doing a documentary on firefighters, and they just so happened to be with the firefighters when they got a call about, I think something happened with the sewers, or there was like smoke or something, and they just happened to be literally like right underneath the tower, and they heard the plane coming in, and that's that one video, the only one video that exists. I'm not sure if that's the one you're talking about.
I don't think it is.
That where they see the very first building being hit, and it just so happened to be because that film crew was doing a documentary, or was it?
Well, in
Makes
this
you wonder.
video, they are panned in to the impact site, and then a laser hits it, and then it looks like a plane projectile hits it. You know, you pretty much can assume with, I'd say, at least 85-90% confidence there's a conspiracy, a financial conspiracy. If you look at the way the insurance was taken out on the towers the day before, the financial things that got destroyed when the towers went down. There's a good document out there, and I wouldn't go quoting this on a college project or anything, but I think it's called Collateral Damage, and supposedly it was written by people within, I want to say, the Office of Naval Intelligence. Again, don't quote me on that, but the people at the Pentagon who were targeted that day were in the accounting department. They were O&I accountants, right? And all but one of them died, at least according to this document. And those guys were working on an audit of the Pentagon.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
9/11. And the Federal Reserve too. Yeah, because I think the day before that, Rumsfeld, made the announcement that like there's $2 trillion missing in the defense budget, right? So that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then that's also the year of Stephen Greer's National Press Club disclosure, which was 3 hours, and then they used a jammer, a communications jammer for the first 2.
When I was watching video of that and unacknowledged, I could not believe that I had never seen this before. If you guys aren't aware, back in 2001, Stephen Greer got together, insiders, military people, people who have seen things, pilots, and had this big press conference, and they laid everything out, but I guess the powers that be.
Well, and then so we got the CE5 documentary that came out this year, and I went on Google Trends and I typed in CE5, and this, because exposure to the public has skyrocketed, and this just happens to be the year of the coronavirus policies.
That's crazy. Well, we got to wrap it up, guys. We're almost out of studio time. I host a cooking show in here right after we're done here. Everybody listening, if you're watching this on YouTube, you probably already subscribed. If you didn't, please subscribe to our new YouTube channel. Are you guys going on YouTube as well, or just going to be on Anchor?
We do have a YouTube channel.
Okay. What is that?
Yeah, shout it all out. Everything you can plug.
It's probably Contacting ET. We've got the links to everything on contactinget.com, or Facebook, Twitter, Discord. The only thing we don't have is WhatsApp. That's for members who have gone through a certain process of being vetted.
Yeah, just go to contactinget.com, and that'll have all the information you need about where you can find us.
Yeah, and it's got all the information. It's got our schedule if you want to come out to our events. We have an amazing CE5 2-night retreat coming up November 6th and 7th. But we are trying to break our previously set record for most people physically touched by ET in one night, which is 5, because I disqualified 2 people who reported me that night because technically they weren't on site with us. Anyways, it's a good sign. So if you want to come, but please be prepared to get poked in the nose gently, or like have your hair pushed on or something by a little gray being. I mean, that's the level that some of these people we go out with are at.
Interesting. It's crazy.
Heck yeah.
That's cool.
But don't worry, they won't touch you if you don't want them to.
No, they won't. That's why I never get touched. Like, I can feel the presence of consciousness, but I'm so jumpy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you guys ever get tired of using Anchor too, want to switch over to Buzzsprout where we're at, let me know. We've got a cool offer for that with a promo code.
Yeah.
Anybody else listening that wants to start a podcast, hit us up. Truth or Theory Podcast at gmail.com. We have a Buzzsprout promo code that's pretty cool. A buddy of mine just started his podcast, Thunk Life, which is about knife throwing and axe throwing. It's really cool. So, and guys, subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and follow JP at
TOTJP.
TOTJP
On the gram.
On the gram, yeah, and at Real E Willie. I have a solo show. I'm not going to do another sad thing like I did last episode. If you hadn't seen that already, it was pretty pathetic. But Yeah, follow me on that. It's No Limits with E Willie on YouTube. It's a fun show. It's a lot of prank calls and guest interviews, but no conspiracies, just silliness.
Yep.
And go rate us on iTunes, Apple, whatever the hell it's called. Give us some reviews, please. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You guys who do multiple podcasts impress me so much. I mean, it takes so much energy for me to do even one.
Yeah, it is exhausting. It's very exhausting. That's why I'm glad I have JP. He's my right-hand man.
Yeah, and I contribute no part of this.
Stop it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. Everybody go out there and listen to Aliens and Ascension podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good one. They already have one episode out, so go check it out.
Thanks again for having us.
It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you so
Anytime.
much.
We'll do a swap cast soon.
Yes.
Have a good one, guys.
All right.